The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is brought to you by Clinica Sierra Vista.
Welcome back to the 17 News at Sunrise podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
Good morning, everyone. It is 5 a.m. Thanks for waking up with us on this Wednesday. I'm Maddie Jansen alongside Alex Fisher.
Breaking news from overnight. Another person in Bakersfield killed on the roadway. This is video of the scene on Newstein Road. The crash happened shortly before 10 o'clock last night. Investigators say a man was outside the crosswalk when he was hit. The driver stayed at the scene and is cooperating with this investigation. By our count, this is the 23rd person to be hit and killed by a car in Kern County so far this year. That averages out to more than one a week.
And this latest crash comes just 2 days after another pedestrian was hit and killed in Bakersfield. A vigil was held last night for that man, who was just 22 years old. His family has a message for drivers as his death adds to the growing list here in Kern County. Here's 17's Michaela Armstrong.
A family is grieving and processing the loss of 22-year-old Jacob Barreras after he was hit by a car at the intersection behind me and died before emergency medical services arrived.
The family gathered at the spot on California Ave in Real Road where Barreras was struck to celebrate his life with a vigil. His sister Cassandra Barreras says the family does not know why Jacob was out the night he passed.
He didn't come home that night and we were worried. That's how we knew something was wrong.
Barreras says the family went to search for Jacob and then decided to go to the coroner's office, and that's when they found out he died.
We all broke down. We couldn't believe the news. He was so young. He was only 22. His birthday was in April. I don't still believe it. It just feels like a dream, you know? Like, my little brother's gone and it's crazy. I don't know what to think of it.
Barreras says the family wants answers and is hoping to recover video from that night and figure out who was the driver of the car.
We haven't got any answers at all yet. It's very frustrating and we just want to know what happened to our brother.
By our count, Jacob is the 22nd pedestrian to die this year in Kern County. And Barreras says she wants people to remember his life and be more aware of pedestrians to help end these fatalities.
People need to know the awareness of, pedestrians, period. Whether there's a crosswalk or not, just watch the speed limit, because there's children that cross at times too, and it's just young people are getting hit too much every day, and it's ridiculous.
The family has started a GoFundMe to cover funeral costs, and you can find the link to that at our website at kget.com. Michaela Armstrong, 17 News.
As the threat of defaulting on the nation's debt looms, the path forward remains unclear. President Biden's high-stakes meeting with House Speaker and Bakersfield Congressman Kevin McCarthy failed to produce a deal that would end the standoff. On the upside, the two, along with other congressional leaders, did agree to meet again this Friday. NBC's Drew Petrimo has more.
After an hour-long meeting between the president and congressional leaders from both parties, there was what sounded like good news from the top Republican in the Senate.
The United States is not going to default. It never has, and it never will.
But there was also a dose of reality from the Republican Speaker of the House.
The House raised the debt ceiling, the Senate has not, and the president hadn't negotiated. So I find that very odd.
According to Speaker McCarthy, no movement on the political stalemate that has Washington hurtling toward an economic crisis.
It's really
Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen says in the beginning of next month, the U.S. will run out of money to pay its debts.
Everyone in the meeting understood the risk of default. Our economy would fall into a significant recession.
But the solution to the impasse is unclear. Republicans demand spending cuts in return for their votes to raise the debt limit. Democrats want a clean bill to pay the nation's obligations while pushing budget talks off until later.
We again repeat our plea to Speaker McCarthy. Take default off the table and let's resume negotiations in the budget process, in the appropriations process, where we have legitimate differences.
The leaders say they'll reconvene on Friday to resume talks on the debt ceiling. In the meantime, their staffs will continue to meet, searching for a solution, with time quickly running out. Most of the responsibility for finding a solution to this problem centers around two men, President Biden and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, and both are facing extreme pressure. McCarthy from hardline conservatives who could oust him from his job, and President Biden from the realities of what a recession would mean for his chances at re-election. Drew Petrimo, NBC News, Washington.
Making news around the nation as Title 42 is set to expire, El Paso, Texas is seeing a surge in migrants, and officials worry that thousands more are waiting to cross. This video was shot by El Paso County at its Migrant Support Services Center, which is packed with migrants seeking asylum. Texas Governor Greg Abbott announced a new National Guard unit called the Texas Tactical Border Force will be sent to hotspots along the southern border. Yesterday, federal agents approached those who'd been living on sidewalks outside a church to ask them to visit one of the processing centers.
5:13 is your time now, and it took less than 3 hours for a New York jury to find Donald Trump liable for sexually abusing writer E. Jean Carroll and for defaming her with the nature of his denials. Trump did not appear at the trial, but posted on social media, calling the verdict a disgrace. Here's NBC's Laura Jarrett.
Can we have a statement, please?
A resounding win for E. Jean Carroll. A federal jury finding former President Trump sexually abused her and then defamed her by calling her story a lie, awarding her $5 million. The jury swiftly returning their unanimous verdict after fewer than 3 hours of deliberations. In a statement, Carroll saying, "This victory is not just for me, but for every woman who has suffered because she was not believed." The jurors hailing from Manhattan, Westchester County, and the Bronx, 6 men and 3 women, including a security guard, physical therapist, and former janitor, all kept anonymous throughout the trial, a rare move imposed by the judge for their own safety. Over the course of 2 weeks, they heard from Carroll, tearful at times, recounting the attack she says happened more than 20 years ago in a dressing room at Bergdorf Goodman. 2 friends she told at the time, along with 2 other women who've accused Mr. Trump of making unwanted advances, all to show a pattern, all claims he's denied. Moments after the verdict, Mr. Trump released a statement on Truth Social saying, "I have absolutely no idea who this woman is. This verdict is a disgrace, a continuation of the greatest witch hunt of all time." A denial similar to this one from last fall when the former president blasted Carroll's story as a hoax, a post viewed by millions. The one the jury found today was defamatory.
They make up stories, and then I'm not allowed to speak my mind.
But his attorneys put on no defense case at trial, and Mr. Trump never showed up, instead posting about his travels overseas.
I don't know anything about this woman.
Though jurors did hear from Donald Trump watching this deposition video where he didn't shy away from that now infamous Access Hollywood tape.
When you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything. Grab them by the you could do anything. That's what you said, correct?
Well, historically, that's true with stars.
It's true with stars that they can grab women by the
Well, that's what it's. If you look over the last million years, I guess that's been largely true. Not always, but largely true. Unfortunately or fortunately.
And you consider yourself to be a star?
I think you can say that, yeah.
Mr. Trump's attorney, Joe Tacopina, telling reporters after court that tape, a possible ground for the forthcoming appeal.
The Access Hollywood tape should not have come into this case. There were things that happened in this case that were beyond the pale.
In his deposition, Mr. Trump also confused a photo of Carroll, who he'd said wasn't his type, for his ex-wife, Marla Maples.
That's Marla, yeah. That's my wife.
Which woman are you pointing to?
A striking moment Tacopina never addressed at trial.
And turning this morning to the trial of Trezell and Jacqueline West, the couple accused of killing their 2 adopted sons, Orrin and Orson. The defense is pointing out conflicting stories by the couple's oldest child. Yesterday, the defense read grand jury testimony from last year, showing the eldest child of the Wests initially said he saw Orrin and Orson just days before they were reported missing. But later in the testimony, the child, who was 10 at the time, said Orrin had died and Orson disappeared several weeks before the missing report. The defense attorneys say a witness will testify that coercive interview techniques were used on the boy. Because of that, he was tricked into false memories. The judge says the trial is getting close to its final stages. It will pick back up later this morning as the defense will continue to call their witnesses.
A man charged with murder and mutilation of a corpse in Ridgecrest will again be examined to determine if he is mentally competent to stand trial. Daniel Gunnarsson was arrested 2 years ago after he was found with the dead body of Catherine Pham in the garage of his stepfather's home. Investigators say Gunnarsson was upset that his romantic feelings for Pham weren't mutual and that he killed her with an ice pick. Gunnarsson was previously found incompetent to stand trial in 2021. He was treated at a state hospital and in March of last year was found to have been restored to competency. Records show Gunnarsson is due in court later today for a new competency hearing.
A Bakersfield man accused of using child pornography to blackmail minors entered a not guilty plea in court yesterday. It's known as a rising crime called sextortion. Police believe they launched an investigation last fall and say they found a 20-year-old man targeting 3 minors. That man, Walter Gray Jr., was booked on several charges, including possession of child pornography and extortion. He's due back in court later this month.
The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.